Kind of sad that the kids don't know Mr. Rogers. I didn't realize that would affect me. Our gospel reading for today is fairly straightforward. Chapter 9, verse 35 to 10:5a, then skipping to 16:23. You might just want to follow along on the screen. But if you'd like a bit of a Bible fun, we are in page 7 of the New Testament. Hear the good news for this day. Then Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and curing every disease and every sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them, because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore ask the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." Then Jesus summoned his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits, to cast them out and to cure every disease and every sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First Simon, also known as Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip, and Bartholomew, Thomas, and Matthew the tax collector, James, son of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanian, and Judas Iscariot, the one who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions. "See, I am sending you out like sheep into the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Beware of them, for they will hand you over to councils and flog you in their synagogues. And you will be dragged before governors and kings because of me, as a testimony to them and the Gentiles. When they hand you over, do not worry about how you are to speak or what you are to say. For what you are to say will be given to you at that time. For it is not you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and a father his child. And children will rise against parents and have them put to death. And you will be hated by all because of my name. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. When they persecute you in one town, flee to the next. For truly I tell you, you will not have gone through all the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes." This is our good news for this day. Please pray with me. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. Grace and peace to you from God, our Creator and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. After reading the Gospel for today, I found myself continually repeating part of verse 16. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. I wasn't so much caught up on the dove as we get the standard Christian image of being dove-like, gentle. We get the Noah's Ark connection of the dove bringing the good news when we thought the judgment would never stop coming, announcing there's dry land. We get the Spirit coming of the heaven opening over Jesus' baptism and the dove descending upon Jesus. I think we more or less get the dove. But serpents? And as wise as serpents? My family and I recently went camping with another family. We went on a nature hike. The kids fairly quickly wanted to quit our fun nature hike because toddlers. So I decided to make it a bug hunt, which kids do like. We found a long centipede, we found some flies, and we were on the lookout for other big bugs. And that sounds much more patient than it was, because it was generally, did you find any yet? 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 That was about the speed that it happened, too. I'm not exaggerating. But when we finally came to another big clearing, the other dad that was with us quickly pointed out something that I had missed. A snake. At first, I was amazed at how perceptive he was. And I still am. But the truth came out a little later. He spotted that snake so quickly because he's afraid of snakes. And constantly looking for snakes. Luckily for me, it wasn't a large spider, or I would have been running off in the other direction. But I know, as this is Father's Day, we're not supposed to admit that fathers have fears of any kind because they're big, tough, strong. But I think most of us have heard the not-so-gentle shriek from far off as our fathers stumbled upon something they feared, be it snake, spider, or the dreaded rat. But in my mind, as I was thinking about Jesus' command for us to be wise as serpents, I was picturing that garter snake from the more recent hike. And I was thinking about the reaction of the other father with us, of seeing that snake and being filled with fear. And yet Jesus is seemingly telling us that there's positives to being like a snake. And that's not our go-to reaction with a snake. Snakes are usually devious, tricky, or venomous, not role models. And this all got me to thinking about another snake that our Tuesday Bible study has been looking into. That crafty serpent from our first reading. The crafty serpent that tricks Adam and Eve into doing what they shouldn't. Now, we all make certain assumptions about this Genesis story. Who is that snake? Anybody tell me? The devil, Satan. Is that written anywhere in Genesis? No. We just know. We assume. And even though you've all seen children's drawings like this, is this really what the snake looks like at this point in the story? No. At this point in the story, he still has legs. But have you ever seen a children's storybook of Eve and the iguana on the tree? No, we assume we jump to the end of the story. Last question to check our assumptions. What kind of fruit did Adam and Eve eat? An apple, of course, because you're good Washingtonians. But nowhere in Genesis does it say they ate an apple. So, you guys are all fine with the nameless iguana tricked Adam and Eve into eating the pomegranate, right? All this unpacking is necessary, not as an attempt to redeem this serpent in the garden, but to help us get at what Jesus is trying to tell us is actually useful about that serpent in the garden. The word used to describe that serpent, that our translation says is crafty, doesn't show up anywhere else in Genesis. But it does show up in a couple of other places. In Proverbs, this word is a good thing. It's translated as prudent. The prudent keep their knowledge to themselves, but a fool's heart blurts out folly. The prudent iguana. In Job, it's a bad thing, translated as crafty. He frustrates the devices of the crafty so that their hands achieve no success. Crafty serpent. Again, we are so driven to jump to the end of the story. Of course we know this serpent is bad. Of course we know that it's leading towards the fall. Of course we know nothing good can come from this section. And yet, is all that truly in that first part of the Genesis story? Before we cut off the snake's legs, so to speak, is there anything that we can learn from this story in Genesis that can help us see what Jesus is getting at in making sense of a rather difficult section in Matthew? This serpent, and the word they use to describe, Jesus says wisdom in Matthew. Our Genesis says crafty, but the words are connected. The Greek word for wise in Matthew is phronimos. Phronimos. Which isn't always wise. Sometimes it's conceited or intelligent, but a lot of times it's also prudent or crafty. So the same translation that, because Jesus is telling us to do it, it means wise. Because the snake did it in Genesis, it's crafty. But there's a connection there that we don't often make because we can't bring ourselves to make that connection. But what if we try? Now, before we go any further, I probably should say something at this point. You might think this is an unnecessary discussion. Who cares about the snake? Because if we're supposed to be like doves, well, that's enough. Why do we need to worry about serpents if we're going to be as gentle as doves with the Spirit of God? But let me ask you this. You have seen some Christians treating other Christians in ways that you have not enjoyed, correct? You've read the news articles. Many of you have experienced the hurtful things that other Christians can do or say to you. And many times those hurtful Christians think that they are acting in the right way. So if some have forgotten the dove and embraced the serpent, maybe it's time that we unpacked the serpent. Again, I'm not trying to sell you on modeling your life around this serpent. But can we learn something? There are two things from this Genesis serpent reading that I want to focus on. One is a question, and one is a statement from that crafty serpent. I won't get into what he's trying to accomplish. We are called to be wise like serpents, not called to be serpents. His first question is, he said to the woman, "Did God say you shall not eat from any tree in the garden?" The serpent begins not with terror or a display of his power other than being a talking snake, or any of the normal tricks that you might expect, but he begins with asking Eve what she knows, allowing her to speak for herself. It's a beautiful beginning, and one we don't often take. To start by listening. When we talk to people, most times we end up making so many assumptions. And we tell people what we think they need to know, but not the serpent. And then after Eve responds, the serpent continues with a statement. It happens to be a somewhat untrue statement. But after she has shared where she is coming from, he shares what he believes. But the serpent said to the woman, "You will not die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." This is known by biblical scholars as the first theological argument. This is the first good church fight. She says one thing about God, he says another. And if you take the Satan out of the snake, and more than that, take the fall out of Eve, think about what this crafty snake just accomplished. He told the truth that he had found, in a way that Eve could hear it. We know this to be true because what does she do next? She goes and eats the fruit. The crafty serpent listened first and spoke something that moved the person to act. If not for the whole snake eating Satan thing and the whole downfall of humankind thing, this is a success story. Good job, snake. Now don't get me wrong. That's a perilous argument. I get that. If I were defending this snake, I would be in trouble. But I'm not. I'm not trying to get us to see that what I'm trying to get us to see is that the wisdom of a serpent is not in its fangs, but in the way that it creeps through the cracks to find us where we are. Jesus is not calling us to be cobras or even gardener snakes, but something much more basic that we lose from time to time. We are called to be decent, inquisitive, wise human beings. We hear the prediction of the life of faith from Jesus in the later part of Matthew, and some people seem to see it as a goal. Brother will betray brother to death, and father his child. Children will rise against parents and have them put to death, and you will be hated by all because of my name. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. And some think that being wise as serpents mean we must strike out, telling hard truths, and cause our brothers and fathers and children to rise up against us. That's how we know we're doing right, when they hate us. But is that actually in the text? Is that really the wisdom of the serpent? This list of what might happen, these are not aspirational goals. Who wants any part of that? Yeah. Just Asher. It's scary when you think about that's my son. We are not sent out to strike and be struck. It may happen. But we are called to listen and to share in a world gone mad. And whereas the wisdom of a serpent can only get us so far with half-truths, we are granted more than wisdom of serpents. Jesus tells us, when they hand you over, do not worry about how you are to speak or what you are to say, for what you are to say will be given to you at that time. For it is not you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. We make life and faith out to be so very complicated, filled with pitfalls and venom and battles. But it's really not meant to be that. And being wise as serpents, we can find ways through the cracks of people's hardened hearts, hearts that have been hardened by greed and hate and animosity. And with the power of God, the God that has claimed us, the Spirit of God that lives in us, we can speak life-giving, life-changing hope that flies down from the heavens and changes people's lives once and for all. Be wise as serpents and as innocent as doves. Because when you do it right, they won't know the difference. And together we can start rebuilding the garden of God. Amen.